Hi, and welcome to the Davis, Saperstein, and Solomon 2022 Student Law Day webinar, Law School, The Road to Success. I'm Elizabeth Sheldon. I recently had the privilege of speaking with many law professionals who have an extensive knowledge of legal education, including college professors, pre-law advisors, practicing attorneys, and more. We covered a wide variety of topics, including LSAT preparation, maintaining a healthy school life balance, different legal career opportunities, and so much more. These speakers provided valuable information and advice, as well as an in-depth look into the sometimes difficult, yet very rewarding process of law school. Our first speaker is Lolita Woodhill, who is currently the Executive Director of Pre-Professional Advising Programs at Yeshiva University in New York City. Ms. Woodhill has been an academic advisor for over 30 years. She received her undergraduate degree at Boston College and completed her graduate work at Hunter College of CUNY. Ms. Woodhill and her husband often work hand in hand to provide financial aid sessions for summer programs, student groups, and community events. This is a kind of a simple question, I guess, but some students might not know. How do you go on to apply to law school? What is the process?
The process is not daunting, but it does take some organization. So you need to make sure if you've taken courses at other schools that you have access to the school so you can order transcripts from wherever you've taken classes. If you took classes in college while you were in high school, you're going to need those transcripts. Transcripts is the number one thing that holds students up because it's something that's not in your control. And check your transcript, make sure it's accurate. I have students who come to me, I'm applying to law school, I just looked at my transcript, but it doesn't have my credits that I transferred in from XYZ school. So now you've got to take the time to do that before you can have that transcript sent to what we call the Law School Admission Council, which is where you send all of your information for law school. So when you thinking about law school, you have to think about taking the LSAT, which is a big test. And the LSAT counts a lot, not in terms of maybe entry into a law school, because you can get into a law school with average LSAT scores. But if you want scholarship money, if you want to go to a top tier law school, then you really have to focus on that test, and that requires time. The application, once you get to that point, is really straightforward. You go to the LSAC website. They have a timeline for when you should be applying. They have information on how you can look at your GPA and your LSAT scores to see what schools you might be most competitive for. They have information on you can bundle your application so you can apply to multiple schools with one application. And then, of course, you have to send in letters of recommendation. Those come from faculty members and from your outside experiences, right? So those important internships, maybe in real estate or in computer law, those are areas, those are where you're going to get those letters from. And then you have this big 2-page personal statement. It's a 2-page essay. It's important that students do really well on that because it's the only 3-dimensional look that a law school will have to look at you in comparison to someone else. And so you want to make sure that it comes across that not only that you're interested in law school, but you're passionate about law, that you're passionate about the idea of learning continuously, about being someone who's always thinking about what can I learn next. So as I said, the application I don't think is very daunting, but it does have pieces that need to be done in advance and pieces that can be done with your pre-law advisor. I always tell students, use your pre-law advisor because they can guide you. They can give you some information that you may not have thought about before.
How many times, in your opinion, do you suggest a student should take the LSATs?
I think they can take it twice without a problem. However, and this is where students fall short, if you take the LSAT in April and then you want to take it again in June, you're not going to move your scores. It may take you a whole year to move the score into an area that will allow you to enter the school that you are interested in attending. So, don't feel as if taking it twice means I take it one time, now I take it a second time, 2 months later, and I'm going to go in that same year. Because once you've taken it twice, that third time now, you really have to climb a mountain in order to make that score work. I tell students, you don't want to take it more than twice. If you have to take it a second time, you really should wait. And if you're not going to wait, then when you take it the third time, you're really going to need to put a year behind you, probably a year with some other experiences, maybe some graduate courses, so that you have a better sense of what it is that you haven't done correctly so that you can be more successful in the future. Students, before they start college, think about AP courses and honors courses. I think the better prepared you are for college, the better off you are when you start. You don't want to start college on a rocky framework. So if you get your study skills together while you're in high school, you will be that much further ahead when you start college. And then college will help you develop more skills so that you get to law school. And then law school will develop more skills as you get into your profession. And I think if everybody did that, I think students would feel less pressure moving along the pipeline to their legal or even to any profession that they choose.
Ms. Woodhill, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Our next speaker is Taylor Pichenteri, who is the Assistant Director for JD Admissions and Adjunct Professor at Law at the Elizabeth Hobbs School of Law at Pace University in White Plains, New York. After graduating from Hobbs Law in 2013, Taylor began her legal career at the Queens County District Attorney's Office as an Assistant District Attorney. She then joined the Westchester County District Attorney's Office in 2016, where she was assigned to the Major Cases Bureau in the Trial Division, handling violent crimes. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off. How and when do you suggest students begin preparing for a legal career?
I would say as soon as possible, meaning as soon as you know that law school is something that you are interested in and want to pursue, that's when you should start getting the ball rolling. So if that's in high school or in college or even after college, you want to start doing things as soon as you can to really set yourself up for success in the application process. In high school, I would say if you think this is something that you want to pursue, get involved in mock trial if your school offers it. If your school offers any sort of law classes, which I know is rare, take advantage of it. If they offer anything that is in the legal realm, more social studies classes, if that's possible for you to do, I would definitely take advantage of everything that your high school has to offer, even debate club, even Model UN, anything that kind of gets you out there and gets you thinking about the law and politics. That's really helpful.
Other than a good GPA and LSAT scores, what can someone do to stand out in a law school application? What can help them kind of stand out from the crowd?
So number one is your personal statement. That is where you can shine. That's where we get to know you. That's where your personality comes out. That's where your writing skills, come to light, which is also very important in law school. So we'd like to see that. Make sure you indicate on your application for PACE specifically if you want to attend full-time or part-time, because we do have a robust, part-time program. We have a flex program that allows students to work a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday and then have the ability to go to class 3 times a week. We have a mix and match option as well if you have some time during the week and you don't want to go to school on a Saturday. So we have options, and just make sure you indicate that on there so that we know what you're looking for.
What other factors are generally considered when a law school is reviewing an applicant?
A lot of different factors. We definitely look at your LSAT and GPA scores, that's for sure. So, you want to look at the median LSAT and GPA for the schools that you're applying to. That's, important. So for us at PACE, our median right now is a 154. LSAT score, our median GPA is a 3.4. So if you're, a little bit lower than that, but you have really great experience, or you've taken a lot of classes related to the legal field, or your letters of recommendation are stellar, we look at that as well. That will push you over the edge. And I think people have a misconception that LSAT score is the end all be all, and it's just simply not true. We look at applications holistically. All of the things that I mentioned are looked at. We want to see who you are, not just your numbers.
What are some of the challenges that you have faced during your legal education, and how did you deal with them?
So when I was in law school, I struggled because I didn't really know what type of law I wanted to practice. I came in thinking I wanted to do entertainment law, which is very common among new law students. Entertainment law is very popular, and it's just kind of like a catchphrase I think that people get very excited about. And I was one of those people. So I really didn't know, what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do that, but, I wasn't really sure. And then, it was sort of suggested to me at some point that criminal law or prosecution would, spark my interest. And so I enrolled in our prosecution externship that PACE offers. I absolutely loved it. I then enrolled in the honors prosecution externship, which was, gave me the ability to get into court, stand up on cases. I did a trial as a student. It was just a wonderful sort of immersive experience that really opened my eyes up to this new area of law that I really hadn't considered before. And, in law school, you don't have to declare a major, you don't have to declare a concentration, but it does help sometimes to sort of have a focus. And at some point, you may figure it out, you may not, and that's okay too. As long as you fulfill your requirements for graduation, you can do anything you want. You can mix and match however you want. You need 88 credits to graduate. You need an experiential, learning aspect of your education. And you need, certain upper level writing requirement. You need certain things to graduate in certain classes. But once that's fulfilled, you can do anything you want. And that's the great thing about law school.
Would taking a double major increase someone's chances of getting into a law school?
You don't want to double major if it's going to severely impact your grades. So there's a balancing act, I would say. And on that same subject, we see applicants who have majors all across the board. So it's not necessarily just political science or philosophy. There are majors that totally run the gamut. We particularly get a lot of science majors, biology majors, environmental studies, because PACE is, ranked #1 for our environmental program. So that attracts a lot of science students to us, but that makes sense. So it's not necessarily about the major, it's the classes that you're taking.
Such valuable information for students out there to know. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Next, we spoke with the Dean of the School of Criminal and Social Justice at Monroe College in the Bronx, Ms. Guy Lane Harrison. She is an attorney and was in private practice prior to serving as a full-time faculty member at Monroe College. Ms. Harrison leads curriculum and program development for the undergraduate and graduate programs in criminal justice, human services, and forensic psychology. Prior to her career in law and education, Ms. Harrison worked on Wall Street for many years. She received a BS in finance from the American University, an MBS from Hofstra University, and a JD from St. John's University of Law. So thank you so much, Ms. Harrison. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Monroe College's legal programs, areas of study, and opportunities for students?
Thank you so much for that great question. So the name of the School of Criminal and Social Justice, we renamed the school about a year and a half ago. And we really wanted to incorporate criminal justice and human services, but we offer associates, bachelor's, and a master's degree in criminal justice. We also offer a master's degree in forensic psychology. We offer associates and bachelor's degree in human services along with CASAC. And we are launching a paralegal certificate program this semester, spring 2022. It's a 36 credit program. And we're so excited because so many of our students are interested in the legal field. Maybe they want to go to law school, so this is a terrific avenue for them. We also offer a legal studies minor, which is an 18 credit minor, and a legal studies concentration.
How
Yes.
important do you think having a mentor for law students and, students who are in college but not necessarily in law school, how important is it for them to have a mentor?
It's incredibly important for students who are considering law school and students who are in law school to have a mentor. A mentor typically is someone who is in the field, who has a vast network of connections, who has a wealth of knowledge and experience. And when they establish this either informal or formal relationship with you, they really want to give back, right? They're committed to, whatever it is that you want to do in the legal field and your success. And so that relationship that they start establishing with you, you have to keep connected with them. You have to ask questions. You have to be curious. You can even ask maybe to attend a hearing or to go to court with them. But they will provide you really with almost like a pathway based on their personal experiences and professional experiences in the law. And really, it's just a wealth of information. I always say, anyone that you meet knows at least 50 people, right? And so if you establish that great connection, and if you express interest and passion about what you'd like to learn and what you'd like to do, people are, our natures, we want to help others, right? So as long as we see someone coming to us and having that positive energy and that inquisitiveness, we want to give back and we want to share. So mentors are incredibly important. I can tell you at Monroe College, a lot of our professors informally mentor students, but we also have a formal mentor program. So every freshman coming in, they are assigned an academic advisor, but also a mentor to guide them throughout their first year at Monroe College. And it's been incredibly successful.
How important is it to have a school life balance?
It's incredibly important to have a school life balance. And we all understand with the pandemic, how difficult it's been because all of us have had to have made incredible adjustments to our lives and our lifestyles. But having that work-life balance is incredibly important. And I would say 100% goes to organization and not procrastinating and time management. I would also say it's okay for you to say no. A lot of students work, believe it or not, they have families and they feel they have to do everything all the time. That's not necessarily so. Your commitment right now, obviously, is to your family, yes, and to your work, but you're spending a lot of money, right? Whether you're in college or whether you're in law school. And so it's not forever. So you're going to have to carve out time, right, to really dedicate yourself to the study. So it's okay to say no to certain things, external things. And I would also say self-care is really important. So whether that is in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening, finding that 5 to 10 minutes just for yourself, doing something that you want to do or nothing at all is great. And then I would also say limit social media exposure as much as possible. I mean, it's good to get information and news, but we're kind of conditioned, if you will, to kind of follow the news all the time, every minute. And that can distract us, right? So if you're working, you have your family, and you're in law school or college, you can't really be distracted. You have to be focused.
What are some of the challenges that you have faced during your legal education, and how did you deal with them?
Thank you. That's a great question. So my story is a little bit different, and my career path is not necessarily linear. I was in finance for a very long time. I was in Wall Street. And so when I went to law school as an older student. I had already had a child. My husband was practicing law and I was working. And so again, it was really time management was definitely a challenge, being organized. And I had a very young child at the time. And so I had to find ways and times to really study meaningfully. And what I mean by that is to actually read and try to understand, right, what I was reading so that it made sense to me, right? And so that I could accumulate that knowledge.
It's important for students to know that there are many career paths to take within the legal field other than being a lawyer. For those who prefer to take this path over becoming an attorney, what suggestions do you have for them? And what programs and internships do you think would be beneficial for them?
Okay, so I would always tell students, do your research, right? Any type of field that you're interested in, it's great to get insight from other people, but you have to really do the work yourself to find out the type of career opportunities that are out there. And if it fits with who you are and what your personality is. I always tell my students that I said, not everyone should be in law enforcement, or not everyone should be an attorney, not everyone should be a corrections officer. So you have to know what your strengths are, what your capacities are, what your interests are. Once you do that, start exploring the different opportunities, career opportunities that are available, and then start looking at the schools if you want to stay locally in your area, and the curriculum and what they offer, and also take a look at the faculty as well. Strength of faculty is so incredibly important, not just in terms of, their careers and what they've done, but what is it at this point in their life where they want to come back, right? And then they want to give to you. So do your research about the careers, do your research about the schools, and then again, start networking.
Ms. Harrison, thank you so much for being here with us today. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and good luck to all the students. Thank you.
I next spoke with Dr. Ryan Reevey, who is the Director of Legal Studies and the Pre-Law Advisor at William Paterson University in Wayne, New Jersey. He earned his undergraduate degree from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and his law degree from the University of Houston Law Center. Dr. Reevey has been a licensed attorney for 20 years and was formerly a private practitioner in criminal law at the trial and appellate levels. He has tried cases in both state and federal courts and has written appeals at the district, circuit, and Supreme Court levels. Hi, Dr. Reevey. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the legal programs available at William Paterson?
We have a variety of courses in our program. We have courses in constitutional law, civil liberties, criminal law, administrative law, international law, women in the law. What's great about our program is that students will take courses in law, but they'll also take interdisciplinary courses. So we require students take courses in philosophy, English, critical writing, psychology. They'll take a research methods, and they also take a senior capstone writing course.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background at William Paterson as a pre-law advisor?
I'm the Director of Legal Studies at William Paterson University of New Jersey. I'm also the university's pre-law advisor, and I administer the Forensic Studies program. I've been a lawyer for 20 years, and I've also been a pre-law advisor for over a decade. So I've helped a lot of students get into good law schools. And I also am the advisor for the student group. And so I work with students outside of the classroom, and I hold monthly pre-law meetings to give students advice about getting into law school.
So as a pre-law advisor, is there a specific major or specific classes that you suggest students take in preparation of applying to law school?
Yeah, so if your university has a legal studies or pre-law major, I recommend that you take that. And there's several reasons for that. One is that you'll get a good foundation in the law and the skills you'll need for law school. You'll get to take a variety of different law courses, so you get to see where your interests lie, whether it's constitutional law, civil liberties, or business law. The other thing is you'll get to take several classes with the legal studies professors, so that's a good way to get to know them and build that relationship. But I think most importantly, it'll help you determine if you actually want to go to law school. Is the study of law right for you?
What qualities do you feel are important in a law school?
First and foremost, I would look at the location. You want to go to law school where you're going to live. Not only are you going to spend 3 years in law school, but you're also going to get summer clerkships there. You're going to make connections. That's ultimately where you probably will get a job. You're going to take the bar exam in that state. So think about location first. The other thing you want to think about are scholarships. I recommend that my students apply to 8 to 10 law schools so they leave their options open. And then finally, I always tell my legal studies students to visit the law schools. If you've narrowed it down to 3 or 4 options and you can't decide, visiting the law school will usually help them make that final decision. You get to visit the law library, the classrooms, see what the campus is like, what's the surrounding like. And then two more factors, bar passage rate and job placement rate. You want to know what percentage of students are passing the bar exam the first time. I would be reluctant to go to a law school where the bar passage rate is 30%. And you also want to know about the job placement rate. What percentage of students get a job within the first 6 months after they graduate?
That's so important to consider as well. So many important factors. Speaking of the bar exam, the LSATs, do you have any valuable studying tips for students who are studying for these upcoming exams?
My best tip for the LSAT is to take a lot of practice exams. You want to do full length times exams, take the full 5 sections, time yourself 35 minutes. Use an analog watch just like you would on the exam. Try to simulate the actual testing conditions, because the more that you do that, when you take the actual test, you're not going to be as anxious. You're going to feel a lot more confident because you've practiced it. You know what to expect. You've gotten used to the pacing of it. You've gotten used to the fatigue factor. It's going to make you a lot more confident. The other great thing about it is you'll get to see the areas that you're the weakest, where you're scoring low. And so you can try to improve on those areas. And you'll also know whether you're ready for the test or not, depending on how you're scoring.
Dr. Reby, thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Gayla Jacobson, who works as the Executive Director of Admissions at CUNY School of Law in Queens, New York. Ms. Jacobson earned her master's in public administration from Baruch College and has almost 20 years of experience in law school admissions. Before coming to CUNY, she worked at both UC Hastings College of the Law and Southwestern Law School. Hi, Ms. Jacobson. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your college's legal programs, areas of study and opportunities, and a little bit about your law history?
Great. So CUNY School of Law is the only law school in the country that has a focus on public interest law primarily. So all the students that come to us are interested in practicing public interest law in various capacities. Of course, that spans many different disciplines. And so the idea really is that all of the classes that you're going to have there are taught through the public interest lens. So while you'll have all the same doctrinal classes, all the same sort of regular things that you would expect out of a law curriculum, they'll all be taught through the idea of looking at where does this law benefit some people and exclude others, and how does it work to continue and perpetuate these standards that we have of keeping some people powerful and others not. So it is a different approach to law, even though you'll learn all the same basic doctrine in order to be able to pass the bar and work as a practicing attorney and all of those things. We have a required clinic as part of your education. It's not just an opportunity to get hands-on experience. It's really an opportunity to get guided hands-on experience.
Are there particular areas of law that you see that are growing and expanding more than ever before over the last few years? And if so, why do you think that that is?
Immigration has changed so drastically and been under such pressure in the last few years, as well as, the idea of integrating critical race theory into the practice of law in every area, which is something that actually CUNY has done from its inception. All of our classes are taught through the lens of critical race theory as well.
What kind of financial aid programs are available for students to help them pay for law school?
Yeah, great question about financial aid, because it's so important that we are able to graduate not straddled with debt. CUNY actually has one of the lowest tuitions in the country. So our tuition for in-state students is about $16,000 per year for the full-time program, because of our mission to graduate students that can actually go back to the communities that they're interested in providing services to. And so it was really important at the founding of the law school that we did not straddle our students with debt. That being said, New York City is an expensive place to live. So there are certainly is a need for support. We have scholarships that are not full tuition. They are all needs-based. We moved to all needs-based a couple years ago, which has been really exciting for us. We wanted to be able to really stand by our values, and we thought that was one of the best ways to do so. And like I said, they are needs-based, but it's not just the FAFSA that we look at. We actually ask a series of questions about a history of housing insecurity, of food insecurity, of what is your current debt situation? Do you have support from family or other relatives? So we try to get a comprehensive picture. The other problem with focusing strictly on FAFSA is that so many of our students don't qualify for FAFSA. So it's hard to actually get a fair assessment. And so we do assess all applicants. Everyone who's admitted gets assessed for scholarship opportunities. They are also based on public interest. So they're needs-based, but you also have to have that public interest component for us in order to qualify for the scholarships. And then the other thing that students should be aware of is the Khan Academy. They partnered with LSAC and created free personalized online LSAT prep. And so that's an opportunity for them to cut down some of those costs and sort of to see, like, take some practice tests and see if they're scoring where they want to be scoring.
What are some of the most common mistakes that you see students make?
So common mistakes that students make are probably mostly going to happen in the personal statement. One of the things that we see, particularly at CUNY Law, because of our focus on public interest, is that students don't tell us necessarily of everything that they're involved in that's public interest. Think, oh, well, that club or that, program that I did, or that, week that I was involved in that thing, maybe it doesn't belong on my resume. There's really no hard and fast rules about what's appropriate or not appropriate in a personal statement. It's really about how you present the information. And so, I encourage students to do a lot of free writes. I encourage students to really think about 4 to 5 different topics that they may consider writing their personal statement about, and just doing free writes and seeing where it goes. Because oftentimes if you try to focus too narrowly at the beginning, then you don't have the opportunity to really explore where this could go.
Ms. Jacobson, thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. And feel free to reach out anytime.
Next, I would like to introduce Harold Ferguson, who is a professor in the Paralegal Studies program in Montclair State University's Justice Studies Department. After graduating from Rutgers Law School, he began working at the Criminal Appeals Bureau in the Legal Aid Society, where he spent his entire legal career handling countless criminal appeals. So, Mr. Ferguson, thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's great to be here. I'm happy to do this.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about Montclair State University and your history?
Montclair State University is one of the largest public universities in the state of New Jersey. It has now over 20,000 students across a wide variety of majors. It has a vibrant graduate program, both at the master's level and now at the doctorate program.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the college's legal programs, areas of studies, and opportunities for students who may be interested in pursuing a legal career?
Well, it has actually multiple tracks there. There is both a justice studies program that has an ABA approved certification program in paralegal studies. It also has within the political science department a pre-law and a law and governance portion of it. So those are two exact things that are related to law. And they just moved the pre-law program into the dean's office and hired a full-time pre-law advisor who is working with the various companies, and they're actually going to be providing free LSAT instruction for the student body for those who are interested.
What qualities do you think are important in a law school when a student is looking? Because as you said, there are so many law schools around the country. So what qualities do you think students should look for when applying to law schools?
I think the first thing they need is to research the schools, because There are certain law schools that have particular focuses that others don't, that have particular areas of specialization. And if they are looking for a particular type of career in law, they should find a law school that suits them. And another factor they need to take a look at is bottom line finances. You know, maybe you could have gotten into a tier 1 law school, but you wouldn't have had scholarships to go there. And now you'll be heavily in debt, and that will limit what career path you can take. If you chose instead to go to a 2nd or 3rd tier law school, there might have been academic scholarships and other merit scholarships where when you graduate, you don't have that tremendous student debt, and then you're able to pick whatever type of legal career that you want. So that's why I tell people to take a look at the overall picture, not just, the prestige of something at the outset. And what I suggest to the students is to look for and try out as many different areas as possible, because people do change. You can change your career. You need to find something you love. And I said, money is wonderful. I will not dispute that, but money isn't everything. You need to find a career and a job that you love. There's no reason, not to take a couple of years, try a couple of different jobs to see if this is what you really want to do.
Mr. Ferguson, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
For our final portion of the webinar, I sat down with 3 current attorneys with our firm, Jeffrey Solomon, David Famuide, and Crystal Carvajal, for a roundtable question and answer session. Jeffrey Solomon joined Davis, Saperstein, and Solomon in 2016 after receiving his Juris Doctorate from Suffolk University Law School. He has dedicated his law practice to representing the rights of those injured due to the negligence of others. Mr. Solomon serves in the firm's personal injury litigation practice group and regularly appears in courts throughout New Jersey for jury trials, arbitrations, and motions. David Famuide is a first-year associate attorney at Davis, Saperstein, and Solomon. He earned his undergraduate degree from the City University of New York and his law degree from Brooklyn Law School. He practiced trademark and business law prior to becoming a personal injury associate here at Davis, Saperstein, and Solomon. Crystal Carvajal is also a first-year associate at Davis, Saperstein, and Solomon. She earned her law degree from Rutgers Law School. While in school, Crystal was a student attorney for the Civil Justice Clinic, where she developed her skills as an advocate. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I want to start off with a simple question. Was there a specific moment in your life when you knew that you wanted to become a lawyer?
I'll take this one. Yeah, actually, it was in middle school, and there was a kid who was being bullied in the locker room by some other kids for something stupid. I can't remember what it was, but 20 or 30 kids were kind of ganging up on this one kid and attacking him. And I stood up for him. I said, guys, cool it, leave him alone. And everyone kind of just sort of slowly backed off. And then I walked away. I didn't really think much of it. And then after class in the hallway, the kid comes up to me and he goes, hey, you really didn't have to do that, but thank you. That meant a lot for me. And, being a lawyer is really being an advocate for people and their rights. It's standing up to bullies sometimes and advocating for those who can't necessarily do it themselves because they're up against big threats like a class full of 20, 13-year-olds. So at that moment, I kind of realized I wanted to be the guy who sticks my neck out for the little guy to help them out and give them a voice.
That's wonderful. What about you guys?
I don't have a specific story just like that, but it's a similar idea. So when I was younger, my father's a lawyer. So when I was younger, I used to hear a lot of people come up to me and tell me how great he was, how he saved them, how he helped them, things like that. So growing up, I just kind of wanted to be that same, hero type of person for people, be an advocate as well. So I kind of just garnered that interest as a young person. And as I got older, I knew that I wanted to get into law. So that's really how it happened for me. It kind of happened over time, hearing different testimonials from people, things like that.
Wonderful.
For me, I've always found the legal profession to be interesting and challenging. So upon graduating from undergrad, I entered the field as a paralegal, and I grew to value the work more and more. And so I wanted to move up the ladder, and here I am.
Wonderful. Well, we're so happy to have you all here with us today. Let's talk about the often dreaded personal statement when you're applying to law school. It's tough to write about yourself. I've been interviewing several professionals and they all kind of say the same thing. It's very tough to write about yourself. So students often really dread writing the personal statement. What suggestions do you guys have to try to make this process a little less painful?
Write about something that you care about and enjoy. And if you actually feel like you're entertaining yourself while writing it, then hopefully the reader will be entertained while reading it. And you got to think about who's on the other end of that personal statement. To you, it's a personal statement. You're only writing one of them, but to the school and the admissions office, they're getting hundreds or thousands of these. So you really want to kind of grab the reader. You want to grab their attention right from the beginning, and you don't want to let go of their attention, and that's how you'll stand out. At this point in your life, you're 22, 21 years old, 20 years old, maybe, writing this personal statement. You've had some pretty cool experiences pretty recently, probably. Mm-hmm. Write about some of those experiences, and don't just write about those experiences, but write about what you've learned from those experiences and what you've gained and how you've grown as a person from those experiences, and how that's applicable to your mission statement, to your reason why you want to go to law school, why you're a good candidate, why you're going to be a good lawyer. That would be my suggestion.
I think it's important to highlight your passions and convey your story in your own voice. Like, avoid using fluff. Be as clear and concise as you can be.
And honest. And honest.
And have
Honesty,
fun.
yeah.
Honestly, have fun. I remember my personal statement. I compared the law to my love for basketball. And it worked for me.
That's amazing.
Make sure to have fun when you're writing.
Fantastic.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What are some of the challenges that you all faced in your legal education, if any, and how did you deal with them?
Understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are. I feel like when you go into law school, you have all these different topics, and you don't know anything about any of them. You're dealing with contracts, property, constitutional law, torts. You're dealing with criminal law, and you kind of almost assume that there's these different pots, and you devote an equal amount of energy to each pot. But that's not the case, and every student is different. There's going to be some students that certain topics will just click for them, and maybe they don't need to spend as much energy on those as maybe constitutional law. So for me, I was pretty strong in torts, obviously, because that's what we do here, and I grew up around this firm, and I had a pretty good understanding of it already. And for whatever reason, criminal law just sort of made sense to me. Right. But contracts and constitutional law, those classes were a little bit tougher. And in the beginning of my studies, I was spending equal energy on all those classes, and I just didn't need to. I needed to spend more energy on my weaknesses to make those stronger, and a little bit less on the ones that I was strong in. That doesn't mean that I didn't devote any energy to the ones that I was strong in. I still had to study, and I still had plenty to learn. But you really have to learn about time management.
That's really good advice, because I know, when I was a student, if there was a subject or a topic that I wasn't very good in, I kind of tended to shy away from it. But you really should do the opposite and really focus on it in order to get stronger in it. Absolutely.
Exactly.
What about you guys?
Yeah, shying away doesn't work in
No.
law. It worked in college, but it doesn't work in law.
No, I would think not.
Definitely you want to take those head on. I think the learning style is what kind of took me by shock the most. In college, I was more used to the professor feeding the information to me. Whereas in law school, it was kind of a review session of what you should have learned yourself already. So it was very different. So going into law school, you want to make sure that you definitely do the readings, but not just do the readings. You want to teach yourself while you're reading. If you need to Google something, check it out. If you need to get a supplement, try to learn that as well, because a lot of the times when you get into the classroom the next day, they're just kind of reviewing what you've already read as opposed to trying to teach it to you for the first time. So it was a little different when it comes to learning style, and you just want to adjust to that as quickly as possible.
Right.
I agree with Jeffrey that time management was the most challenging for me, especially the first semester.
Mm-hmm.
Reading case law was foreign to me. I had no idea how to analyze any of it. And so it took me hours just to read 3-4 pages. But as time goes on, you learn to manage, you learn to spot the issues and what's relevant and what's not. And so yeah, in my opinion, I think the first semester is the most challenging, and then you have to have faith in yourself.
Right.
You're capable of so much more
Right.
than you know.
Right. That's
it'll
that's
get
so
better.
important to remember.
Absolutely.
You know, just when you think maybe I'm in the wrong place, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, right? I'm sure that's a common thought that most people in law school have had, right? Like, oh, maybe this is too much for me. But then it's important to stick with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To add on that, both those things, use your resources, use Google, use the internet. You know, there's these cases, you're reading these dense Supreme Court cases that are written by the most brilliant legal minds. It really does take a couple of hours sometimes to read a 10 to 15 page long case. And then by the end of it, you may not have any understanding of what you read. Now it's so much easier with Google. There's websites and whatnot that you can go on and you can read a 1-page summary. And before you actually dive into reading that case, because you really should read that case and understand how the Supreme Court makes decisions and how they apply logic and law to these, complicated issues. But before you read that case, it's so helpful to have an understanding of here's what the actual issue is in the case. Here's what the facts of the case are. Here's what the holding of the case was. So you really have to kind of go through an understanding of what was the whole process of this case. Where did it start out? Which courts did it go through? Which levels did it get up to? What were those decisions before that it made it to the Supreme Court? And just kind of having that understanding before you actually read the case will save a tremendous amount of time.
What were some of the most beneficial and inspiring classes or internships, opportunities that you guys had while you were in law school?
So there's obviously the classes that you have to take, and then you kind of get to choose some of your other classes. And it's always smart to choose classes that are not optional, but are going to be a topic on the bar, like family law, for example. That is an optional course, or at least at my school it was optional, but I knew it was going to be a topic on the bar, so I didn't have to take it, but I might as well take it. That way when I'm studying for the bar, it's easier. But for example, I think like one of the most beneficial classes I took, which was I kind of had to drag myself into it because everyone was like, this class is a lot of heavy lifting, but it's worth it. It was trial advocacy. And trial advocacy was tough because you really have to, stick yourself out there. And the whole class is basically just doing mock trials. And it's a lot of work. And you're trying these fake cases, these mock cases in front of your peers. And it's a stressful class, and it's completely optional. And I do not regret having taken that one bit, because now, especially as a litigation attorney, that's what we do.
Well, of course, torts. That's what we do here.
Right.
That was a major class, and it kind of also reinforced my decision to get into personal injury law. So I would say that was very important. Evidence was also a very important class. It was not. It was optional in my school, but it's very important to what we do, to what many lawyers and many litigators do as well. When it comes to internships, I did a clinic at the New York Legal Assistance Group, which was great because it gave me an opportunity to advocate for people even while still being in law school. So I would go to hearings before the judge, and I would actually, present cases for clients. So it was a very interesting opportunity. And I definitely do suggest and recommend that all students should do a clinic while in law school, because that's definitely an internship opportunity. And you get credits as well. So
it's fantastic. What about you, Crystal?
I took 2 seminars that were inspiring to me: public interest and low-income housing.
Okay.
So in law school, seminars are much smaller than your first-year courses that could have hundreds of students. So this is probably like 6 to 10 students. So you're able to engage with your peers and your professors. And these 2 seminars in particular, it was inspiring to me because my professors, they were so successful and yet so humble and still committed to advocating for the marginalized. And I found that inspiring.
Wonderful. Fantastic. So, David, I want to steer the conversation towards you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your law school experience. Where did you go? And did you know exactly what type of law you wanted to go into?
Yeah, so I went to Brooklyn Law. I'm a New York resident. I went to Brooklyn Law. Law school was challenging. It was what everyone what everyone says it is. It's tough, but I enjoyed my opportunity to learn the law, to grow as a student, and to eventually become the person I am today, well versed in the law and in litigation as well. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, of course, and I also knew I wanted to be a personal injury lawyer after my first year. After I'd done after I'd taken my torts class, I knew I wanted to be a personal injury lawyer. And that was just kind of my focus since then. So it was pretty easy and clear cut for me.
How have your first few months of practicing here at Davis, Saperstein and Solomon been?
It's been great. It's been a huge learning experience. I've been going through a lot of training so far, learning a lot about personal injury law and the different intricacies that come with it. It's the topic and the practice of law can be complicated in many ways, but I've been trained very, very well by the partners here and by the other lawyers here on how to practice and things to look for. So I've just enjoyed learning so much over the period of time that I've been here so far. And I'm definitely looking forward to advocating for people in the future.
I want to talk about women in law very briefly. How important is it for women to follow through with their dreams of legal career despite the challenges that they may face?
I'm very hopeful about the change that I've seen in the legal field. When I think about the social issues, there have been a lot of positive change. For instance, my mother, she's a legal secretary. And so as a kid, when school was not in session, I would spend my time at her office, and all the attorneys were male and all the secretarial staffs were female. And that's no longer the case. And I think that's progress.
Absolutely.
And I think that whether you're a male or a female, if your goal is to go to law school, you should pursue that passion.
So how have your first few months been practicing here at Davis, Saperstein and Solomon?
I became admitted to practice in December of 2021, so fairly recently.
Yeah.
And I started here at Davis, Saperstein and Solomon as a first-year associate. And because they are an educational-based firm, I've been a part of an extensive training, and I think it's going well, and I'm learning something new every day.
All right, Jeff. So you've been practicing law for over 5 years now, right?
Almost.
Do you see a big change in yourself now compared to when you initially started?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's no teacher like experience. Law school is great. You really learn the law, but you don't walk out of immigration class in law school knowing how to practice immigration law. You don't walk out of torts knowing how to be a personal injury lawyer, and so on. I mean, it's like you can watch videos and read about driving a car, but you're not going to actually learn how to drive a car or get comfortable with it until you actually feel the wheel under your hands and feel what it's like when you press down on the gas. And it's called practicing law. So the more experience you have with it, the more practice you have, the better you get. So I definitely feel like a lot of people use 5 years as like the milestone. They're like, oh, once you have 5 years under your belt or 10,000 hours or whatever it is, things really have clicked, and you really have a different level of confidence. And I see that, things, I go into certain things now that, I would have gone into it as an attorney that was practicing for a year or 2 years with a complete different level of confidence. And yeah, I do feel like I've grown stronger over the past 5 years.
Definitely. How important do you think continuing legal education is, attending seminars, conferences for practicing attorneys?
Yeah, again, so, it's called practicing law, not perfecting law. And that's part of the reason is because the law is always changing with technology. Even if you just look at like things like Uber and Lyft or just what's happened in the past 20 years
Right.
as far as our technology goes. Things are changing so rapidly, and the law is trying to keep up with everything. But it's almost like things are changing quicker than the law is. So you go to these conferences and you learn about these new ways that things are changing and how lawyers are kind of adapting to it, and what kind of cases they're putting forward because of these changes. And
Right.
it's
So
just-
you can never know too much. You can
cannot.
never know enough, right? I mean, there's always something new out there for practicing attorneys to learn. What advice do you have for those who are just graduating law school this year?
There's people who graduate law school that don't know
Really?
what kind of law they practice. Or there's people who go to law school expecting, I want to be a criminal defense attorney. They're set on that and they go their entire career law school through that. And then they start working for the public defender or a criminal defense firm, and it's not what they thought it would be. And they make a career change, and that's perfectly okay. If you're someone who doesn't know what you want to do and you're graduating law school, that's perfectly okay. Go around and get experience. Work for different law firms. Try a clerkship. That's something I didn't do, and I regret not doing. A clerkship would be great. You get to shadow a judge, do legal research with a judge, talk about the decisions that judge is going to make, and oftentimes, depending on which clerkship you have, you get to see a lot of different cases that way. But if you absolutely do know what you want to do, if you say, I want to be a personal injury attorney, I want to be a prosecutor, and you're set on that, lean into it. Go for it. Go apply for the prosecutor's office. Go apply to a personal injury firm. And, 90% of the time you'll be right and you'll end up enjoying it, and then you'll develop your career and you'll stick with it. But if it's not for you, there's plenty of different areas of law, and there's plenty of people who make career changes throughout their career. I would just say that, the earlier the better. So if something's not working for you, if you don't like something, a specific field, then switch. There's no use in getting your 10,000 hours in a field that you're going to end up, not being happy with and dropping later on.
Fantastic advice. So I would like to thank all three of you for being here with me today. It has been fantastic. You have given us such wonderful information, and I'm sure our viewers are going to really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for our 2022 Law Day student webinar. We hope the information provided was helpful in deciding your road to success. If you have any future questions, please feel free to email us at community@dsslaw.com. I'm Elizabeth Sheldon. Thanks for watching, and best of luck to you all.